Welcome to Filmcast Without a Cause, the first and only movie podcast that's hosted by us.
Perfectly put.
I'm Jacob Rosdale.
And I'm Patrick Boberg.
And normally we start off our show with news of the most recent big budget remake announcement or some superhero chatter. And we will get to that because we're us. We have to. But first, we're going to go a little indie. We're going to talk about the Independent Spirit Award nominations, which were announced this past week. I had to do some research on the Independent Spirit Awards. I knew of them, and I always read the winners, but I had no idea who actually gave them out. Did you have any idea?
No.
Okay.
I thought I thought the Spirit Awards were like a magazine or something.
Well, they're put on by Film Independent, and there's also Independent Filmmaker Project, which I'm guessing is a way like an organization or whatever to fund independent films, together with people who win Spirit Awards, much like the Oscars. If you win an Oscar, you're automatically in the Academy, or you're at least automatically invited to join the Academy. And like I said, I usually like to read the winners of these because they're usually more interesting than I think the Oscars or the Golden Globes as far as the winners go. Mm-hmm. It's pretty hip. They have a purple carpet out. I think it has a pretty laid-back reputation. And they have the typical awards: Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress. But they also have some different kinds of awards. I looked it up. They have the John Cassavetes Award, which is an award given to a film made for under $500,000. And the Robert Altman Award, which a lot of guilds have these kind of awards that are for ensembles. And they also have Best First Feature and First Screenplay Award. So it's kind of really rewarding that independent spirit, maybe.
I especially like the Best First Feature and Best First Screenplay because it seems like when it comes to independent, just looking at, if you're on our website or anything, you can pull up the list from there. The best features, every one of these, except for two, are known directors, like landmark directors. We're talking David O. Russell, Wes Anderson, Richard Linklater, and then, of course, there's two, like, just, I don't really know, Keep the Lights On, but Beasts of the Southern Wild is probably, without a doubt, the #1 independent film of the year.
Yeah, I would say I haven't heard a lot of guessing on what the favorites are, but I know Silver Linings Playbook has 5 nominations, and Moonrise Kingdom has 5 nominations. Those would be the favorites because they have the most nominations, but if they're truly about the independent spirit, I would think Beast of the Southern Wild would have an edge because that was basically a film collective and made for very little money. Obviously more than $500,000 now. What would you say is your favorite? Again, we don't know what Keep the Lights On is, but again, Beast of the Southern Wild, Bernie, Keep the Lights On, Moonrise Kingdom, and Silver Linings Playbook. Those are the best feature nominees. Which one do you think has the edge?
Well, I'm going to say Beasts of the Southern Wild, and not just because it's a beautiful movie, but it won. Did it win the Golden Lion at Cannes, or it took something major at Cannes?
I think it won something at Sundance, actually.
Okay. Didn't it take something at Cannes as well?
It might have. It was a big awards winner. I mean,
yeah, but I mean,
festivals.
Not that you have to follow the herd, so to speak, but I don't know. We both really liked it, and I think it's something unique opposed to these other two films, whereas Bernie to me is something incredibly unique as well. But yeah. I haven't seen Silver Linings or Keep the Lights On, but Moonrise Kingdom to me did not stand out over Wes Anderson's other works.
Looking at the other categories, we're not going to read them all off because there is probably a dozen categories. Anything else stand out at you? Anything else that got you excited about the Independent Spirit Awards?
Well, I'm definitely somebody who enjoys screenplays because I have taken up writing them and then failed and just started over again several times. But I always like to see things that's probably my favorite Oscar is the best adapted, best original, maybe more original, which I don't know if that says something about me, but I like the idea. I just watched Ruby Sparks, and I didn't know this, but Zoe Kazan wrote that, and she's up for best screenplay. That's interesting. So I don't know if I'd vote for that over, say, Seven Psychopaths in here, but those are the ones that I always kind of look for. And the best first screenplay, there's some we reviewed Celeste and Jesse Forever, and we didn't review it, but Safety Not Guaranteed. So it's just interesting, the screenplays, to see where originality goes. So that's where my vote goes. Would you have a certain area that fits your fancy?
I was just admiring the different acting awards that went out, or not awards, nominations. Matthew McConaughey, who we talked about a couple weeks ago because you had seen The Lincoln Lawyer and I Saw Killer Joe, He's nominated for Killer Joe for male lead, against Jack Black, another performance we've liked, and also a supporting male for Magic Mike, which I still have not seen. And I'm very happy for any nominations for Britt Marling and Zach Batmanglish. I'm going to butcher his name, for Sound of My Voice. And Britt Marling has an acting nomination too, supporting female, even though I think it's hard to argue that she's not the lead of Sound of My Voice. But I don't know. I did look it up while you were talking. Beast of the Southern Wild won the Camera d'Or at Cannes, and as well as the Fipresci Prize, regards, it's in French, Jeune, and the prize of the ecumenical jury. So it won, 4 different awards at Cannes, so definitely a big award winner. Just wanted to get that out there. But for those interested in watching the Independent Spirit Awards, it is still a ways away. It is does not happen till February 23rd, and it will be aired on IFC, a channel I do not get.
And since I don't have cable or satellite, I will not be able to see it. I always want to see these things stream online. Maybe one day they will.
Yeah, I guess the Gotham Awards was just streamed online, but I only know that because a bunch of people on Twitter were talking about how crappy the internet feed was. So it's not a perfect science yet. We're going to stay indie here for a while. I can't imagine anyone listening to our podcast about movies does not know what Sundance is. But if you don't, it is a big film festival taking place in Park City, Utah, at the very beginning of the year. Started by Robert Redford. Am I forgetting anything important about Sundance?
I don't think so. It's made famous for several different movies, like Kevin Smith, and wasn't Reservoir Dogs premiered at Sundance? I may be wrong.
Yeah, it basically was part of the birth of independent film, and it's still a relevant film festival today. Just last year, Beast of the Southern Wild played there. The Sessions, which is a big awards buzzy film this year. Safety Not Guaranteed again. Arbitrage. Compliance. A bunch of documentaries premiered there. It is still a pretty buzzy festival to get yourself in.
But at the same time, you have to watch out because movies will come along like The Tao of Steve or Happy Texas and win something huge there and then bomb in the box office.
Oh, Happy Texas. I still have not seen that. Is that the one about hockey team, or is that the bank robber one?
I haven't seen it.
No one's seen it. Okay,
I just know the story.
Why we're talking about Sundance is, even though it's not until January 17th.
That is correct.
Yeah, so it's actually coming up. They have started to announce what films are going to be playing at the festival, and dozens and dozens of films. One of which, Pat, you sent the email to me, so I'll let you have the honors. It got me really excited.
Well, Jacob, a few years ago, turned me on to a little time travel film that has pretty much turned all the nerds on their head about how awesome it is. Primer from Shane Carruth. And the amazing thing about it is I think they had... Was it a no-budget movie?
It was in the thousands of dollars.
Okay, so
I'm going to have to go to Wikipedia.
Pretty close in terms of movie making, but he wrote it, directed, acted in it, scored in it as well. And he hasn't done anything since, and that was back in 2004. Well, this is going to be his follow-up. And I don't know, have you read a synopsis for this film anywhere?
First off, Primer cost $7,000. Thank you, Wikipedia. But I did pull it up. The film is called Upstream Color, which is already a unique name.
Oh, here it is. And it's a man and woman are drawn together, entangled in a life cycle of an ageless organism. Identity becomes an illusion as they struggle to assemble the loose fragments of wrecked lives.
That sounds great. That's I'm buying my tickets to Park City. Actually, that doesn't make any. I mean, it actually has me a little bit worried about this. Just because, but I worry in a good way, because I wouldn't want him to come back with something really conventional after Primer, which is become a film that's now so kind of popular with nerd circles that I'm kind of sick of hearing about it. Even though I was a big proponent, and still a big proponent of it. If you haven't seen Primer, see it. It's one of those that gets really into the nitty-gritty of time travel, and there is no real admission that this is a sci-fi film or a genre film. That synopsis is very vague, so it could just be a standard romance from that.
Yeah, and the stills that they show are very moody independent film with absolutely no tick towards science fiction or anything like that. But then if you watch Primer, there's very little that would point you in the way from a still frame of it being a science fiction piece. So who knows?
Yeah, either way, he's proven with his one film to be a very talented and very intelligent individual. So I'm at least curious if this is going to be a huge, I'm for some reason, and I really shouldn't think this way, I'm thinking of Richard Kelly, who another independent smash with Donnie Darko, and then went on to do something even stranger and bigger, and he let all the buzz about his greatness get to his head, and he creates Southland Tales, a film I've grown to love because of its sheer audacity. But
Did he? This might be wrong, but did he also direct The Box?
he did, which
Oh
we'll
man,
talk.
We'll be talking about that later.
We'll talk about that a little bit later. I know I admitted I studied the Sundance announcements a little bit more than you, Pat. Do you have it pulled up in front of you?
Yes, I did. Right before we started recording, I noticed there's a Richard Linklater film, and also Joseph Gordon-Levitt, holding true to my prediction, he will be in a movie every other month for the rest of time. Has a movie coming out at Sundance, which I think he's been in a Sundance movie like for the last 3 or 4 years, and the Ashton Kutcher Jobs film, titled Jobs, is coming out.
The Joseph Gordon-Levitt film, actually, he's directing, and he wrote it, too.
Oh, I didn't know he wrote it.
Sort of contemporary Don Juan movie, from my understanding. And the Richard Linklater film being the much-anticipated Before Midnight sequel to Before Sunrise and Before Sunset. Big fan of both of those. There's one film I wanted to single out as being excited about. It is the film Hell Baby, which is the, I believe, directorial debut of Robert Ben Garant and Thomas Lennon, famous from The State and Reno 911, but also have been known to be kind of Hollywood hacks. Pat, did you ever read their book?
No, I didn't read it, but I heard it's the one about how you can make $1 billion. I made $1 billion, and so can you in Hollywood, or something like that. It's all about
how to write
following
movies.
the Hollywood pyramid script scheme to, you don't have to break the mold to make a good movie.
How to write movies for fun and profit, or fun is crossed out. They've written like the Night at the Museum movies and Herbie Fully Loaded, but don't hold that against them, because I think when they're actually really trying to be funny, I'm hoping that this will be a breakthrough. It's called Hell Baby. Looks like a horror, kind of a play off a horror movie. The description says an expectant couple moves into the most haunted fixer-upper in New Orleans, a house with a demonic curse. Things spiral out of control, and soon only the Vatican's elite exorcism team can save the pair. Or can it? And that stars Rob Corddry, Leslie Bibb, Keegan-Michael Key, Ricky Lindholm, Paul Scheer, and Rob Hubel. A lot of funny people I like. So I am very curious about the buzz that'll come out of Sundance for Hell Baby.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that Thomas Lennon is probably the most goofball actor. He's always playing that guy in movies. But his films that he's written in, he wrote that, and he wrote a couple others. I think that Vin Diesel babysitter movie he wrote.
The Pacifier, yep, you're right.
But it's not exactly complete over the wall, put your butt in pudding like he was in The State. So it could go either way. We'll see.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't say how excited I was for the Sound of My Voice team. Follow-up to that film, Zal Batmanglij and Britt Marling in The East, which sounds like kind of sounds like it's playing with similar themes. It's about a woman who goes undercover with a terrorist organization. I'm really dumbing it down. I don't feel like reading the entire description, but it stars Britt Marling again, who I'm kind of developing a film crush on. So at this point, I'll see anything Britt Marling's in.
Well, I'll see it as well.
We're not going to talk about the documentaries that are premiering at Sundance. Instead, the ones that have made Oscars documentary shortlist. Now, this is a category that I'd say in recent years becomes more infamous for the films it excludes than the films it includes.
Oh, that is completely on the money. It's almost as bad as the Best Original Song.
Last year, the big uproar was The Interrupters was left out. I think every year there's a big documentary that doesn't make the short list. And this year, well, there's probably a handful. West of Memphis, the new...
It's the West Memphis 3 documentary. One of the West Memphis 3 documentaries.
Queen of Versailles, which was a documentary I really enjoyed. Entertaining documentary. Also, Ken Burns in Central Park 5 isn't on the list. A film I have yet to see, but I've heard only good things about. Jiro Dreams of Sushi.
That didn't make it?
That is not on the short list.
That's like the one documentary outside of like The Invisible War or Bully that everyone is talking about. How can that not make it?
I don't know. Maybe it was considered too light, but I'll just read the list really quickly now. These are the films of the 15 films that they will cull down to 5 for the actual Academy Awards. Ai Weiwei, Never Sorry, Bully, which was a pretty high-profile film earlier this year, Chasing Ice, Detropia, which I've seen, Ethel, which I've seen, 5 Broken Cameras, The Gatekeepers, The House I Live In, How to Survive a Plague, which is a pretty big AIDS documentary that is just now getting some buzz, and The Imposter, which is another. I don't know much about it, but I know it's gotten a lot of good reviews.
You also left off, what about like the Mia Maxim Culpa, Silence in the House of God, Searching for Sugar Man, This Is Not a Film, The Waiting Room.
Yeah, I guess the list I'm looking at is incomplete. Cause
and I didn't mention The Invisible War, but that is, out of all these lists, and I want to see Bully, but The Invisible War seems like it has made some major landmark changes because, for those who don't know, it deals with rape in the military. The president had a private screening of it, so that alone makes me think that it may not be Bully and it may not be How to Survive a Plague, like is good, but it might have a bead on winning just because of that buzz.
No, I think that you're very accurate. The other one I would put as a possible spoiler there would be Searching for Sugar Man, because that's one of those crowd-pleasing docs. I have yet to see it. It hasn't come to Winston-Salem yet, but it's got one of those feel-goods, kind of like Buck from last year, from what I've gathered. Buck, another film that was not nominated, I believe. So, I would be curious to see when those nominations come out, which of these 15 actually make the list. I definitely think you're right, though, that Invisible War is a front-runner, and I want to say Searching for Sugar Man, too. It's too early to do too much Oscar prognosticating.
Well, the one thing when it comes to the Oscars is this is the category where people like to get political, like overtly political, not, gerrymandering for the wind, but... people are willing to vote for slight movies and, slight performances, but they want to take a stance on their documentary votes. So the things that take a stand are more likely to win.
Very well said. So we've been talking about independent films, and we've been talking about award-winning documentaries or award-eligible documentaries. So the only way to segue from there is to start talking about the X-Men.
Finally, geez.
Finally, it took us long enough. The announcement was made last week that the X-Men First Class sequel, dubbed X-Men Days of Future Past, will incorporate original series actors Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, and I believe Hugh Jackman has been in talks to appear, at least in a cameo. Pat, what is your feeling about this?
I am a major fan of Patrick Stewart and anything he does, so I would say the more the merrier there, and it's hard to argue with Ian McKellen as Magneto. I don't know. I know a lot of people love him for his work as the Wolverine, but I'm kind of over Hugh Jackman. I'm ready for that to be over with.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not something I'm very hard stand on. But, I don't know. I'm just personally just a little on the edge of not caring anymore.
Okay, if you're on the edge still, maybe you can get one over next summer when the Wolverine comes out. I maybe would have enjoyed a straight sequel to First Class rather than this crossover already. I would have liked them to establish that franchise a little bit better. Maybe have a sequel set in the 70s where First Class was in the 60s. But it's kind of cool that they're bringing the world together, and there were questions when First Class came out of whether or not it was a straight-up reboot. And I almost would have preferred that because as much as I like Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, they kind of wrote themselves in a corner with X3, but maybe since they've confirmed there's going to be time travel now if both actors are in it, maybe they can explain some of the contradictions that occurred in First Class versus X3, maybe retcon X3 completely. I don't know. They
might just do something as slight as a flashback with because at the end of X3, where Magneto's playing chess and he suddenly realizes he still has his powers, somehow that might come into play, and then it'll just flash right back.
Anyway, we always have to talk superheroes when there's news. And that's a pretty big nugget for fans of the X-Men series.
Yeah, and when we're not talking superheroes, we're probably talking Star Wars, which means that there's a little story. We have some good news as far as I'm concerned. Colin Trevorrow, director of Safety Not Guaranteed, will not be directing Episode 7. He will now, in fact, be directing a remake of a film I never really cared for, Flight of the Navigator. Were you a major fan of Flight of the Navigator?
I was going to ask you the same thing, because I know I've seen it, because I remember it had the Pee Wee Herman voice, this I remember the boy in the spaceship, I remember this floating eyeball, or robotic, eye device or whatever, and it being voiced by Paul Rubens, and kind of sometimes making the Pee Wee laugh. I hope that's the same movie I'm thinking of.
It's been so long. The only thing I remember from the film is I think the main kid wakes up in the forest at some point, and he's got a bunch of and then he has to like run to his parents' house. Oh man, it's been so long.
See,
I don't know if this is as beloved as Colin Trevorrow wants us to believe.
I think everything has its nostalgia base, and I'm pretty sure I've heard people talk about how much they like Flight of the Navigator, but and I had totally forgotten the whole aspect of the movie where he's been gone for 8 years or whatever. Yeah, and that's funny. The one thing you remember is the one thing I forgot. But I'm actually, if it's a cool premise, it kind of sounds like a neat premise. What's the worst he can do with it? This is okay news. As long as he's not doing Star Wars. We both didn't think he was up for it, but maybe after this, Episode 8, maybe I won't care.
Well, if we can just toss in a couple pieces of Star Wars stuff. Did you hear that Jon Favreau and possibly David Fincher are the two people leading now, if it's not Matthew Vaughn?
Favreau doesn't surprise me,
me
because he's been he worked with Disney, working on a Magic Kingdom film for Disney that was going to be basically turning all their amusement park attractions that weren't already movies into a movie. So he was already working with Disney, and he's done sci-fi, Iron Man, Zathura. So that didn't surprise me. David Fincher, I guess I have heard this. I didn't think it was serious, though.
Well, supposedly his career started as a low-level job at Lucasfilm, and he has some affinity for George Lucas and the franchise because of it. I mean, he probably also has affinity because he probably saw it when it came out, but
yeah.
That would be a very interesting move. I don't know if I'd choose him personally, even though we both love him.
So interesting. I would want to see that because I would have no idea. Maybe for one of those spin-offs there's been rumors about. Maybe he can do like a darker... I doubt they'd do a rated R Star Wars, but maybe at least a PG-13.
Maybe he'd do like a movie 43 style version of Star Wars with all of his films in it, like Han Solo has to hide in a panic room while Darth Maul comes back and he's the Zodiac killer or something. I don't know. I'm just being an idiot.
If I had more time, I would have something prepared for that, but that's pretty good. There's one other thing I want to throw at you right quick. It's not in our rundown. Entertainment Weekly named their Entertainer of the Year this week. I don't know if you saw that, Pat.
No, I did not. Are you asking me who it was?
Well, you can guess.
Entertainer, so it could be anybody who sings,
anyone.
Whatever.
Yes, actor, television, movies. Could be a writer. Could be J.K. Rowling.
Justin Bieber?
No, it was Ben Affleck was named the Entertainer of the Year.
Interesting.
You had so many hands in the pie. That was Argo. That is a big piece of entertainment, I would say, but not who I would have picked. I when I saw that, I was like, he only had one movie. I mean, that didn't sustain the whole year. Mm-hmm. My pick would have been my man Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He was in like 5 films this year, at least 4. Dark Knight Rises, Looper, Lincoln, Premium Rush. He was all over the place. SNL. He entertained me a lot.
Yeah, I could not argue against that pick.
Sorry to throw that curveball at you there, Pat.
No problem.
But let's just get on to what is probably going to be frontrunner for Entertainment of the Year, Killing Them Softly.
I come in here every day.
I know.
Look, I don't know you.
Very few guys know me. You're in a position very few guys ever get in. You have choices.
Look, I don't know if I can do this.
Set in the shadow of the 2008 presidential election and financial crisis, 3 small-time crooks rob an underground poker game, causing an avalanche of upheaval in an organized crime world.
We got the 2 kids. One of them starts bragging about how he just knocked over this guy's game for $100K. I don't know what it is with these guys. They can't keep their mouths shut about nothing.
More than any other genre, including romance, crime and gangster films and television shows have been mined the hardest. Why are there so many serial cop shows? Why are there so many spy movies or cop on a mission films? It's because the stakes are clear and the audience knows exactly the order in which the story will progress. Still, every so often, audiences get a film like Killing Them Softly, adapted from Deputy Attorney General turned best-selling novelist George V. Higgins' Coogan's Trade. Killing Them Softly has no cops, no clues, just the understanding that everyone on screen is a criminal and any one of them might die before the credits roll. So Jacob, with very few traditional storytelling beats to help viewers find their bearings, my question is very simple. Did Killing Them Softly's unusual technique work for you?
Okay, was that an audible enough sigh? Do I need to do that again?
No, that was quite loud.
Well, this film is such a mixed bag. Of the mixed bags out there, this is one of the most mixed. Some moments in this movie really work. Specifically, the robbery scene you mentioned in your introduction. It's a stick-up of a poker game. It's done in real time. I don't think there's any music. Anything can happen. You've only been with these characters for a few minutes, so it's easy to believe one of them could die. One of them is established as a screw-up. It's very tense. It's very intense. And the first half of the movie actually is very compelling. It's funny. It's much funnier than I was expecting going in, that's for sure. And it's violent and brutal, but... and you mentioned this in the intro. Was this really set during the '08 election?
The film was. The book is, I think, from the late 80s.
I'm being sarcastic because...
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, how could you miss that? That was completely foolish.
Because anytime they get a chance, they overlay these financial crisis parallels. I don't think anyone in this movie listens to music on the radio. They're all listening to NPR's Marketplace. Because...
Yeah, that was very bizarre.
Every time someone's driving, we hear... George W. Bush talking about the economy, or reporters reporting on how bad the economy is. The opening sequence, which is really cool, the title sequence, is played over an Obama speech cut up into little bits, but while Killing Them Softly comes up. It's just overplayed. And it was so on the nose, actually, we were going to talk about allegory in our special segment and how it works and it doesn't work. But I want to know for you, it didn't quite work for me, but did that work for you? Were you gripped by Killing Them Softly at all?
You know, I will double down on your side and just say that it's not a bad film necessarily. That's the problem. It's not accessible to the point that I like some very non-accessible films. But it's like a Coen Brothers movie that's on heroin, and there's a character in the film who is on heroin, and maybe one of the weirdest scenes or the most artistic in-your-face scenes. And there's some complete obvious allegories, like you just mentioned, but there's connections and metaphors to the Seven Deadly Sins or Dante Inferno's Nine Circles of Hell. You could take every character and say that they're in the different circles of hell, and just to make sure that worked, I went through it, and I'm pretty certain that based off that maybe they're trying to say in this film that Brad Pitt's character represents the devil, and he's dealing with all these other demons and minions who are in hell. It was so hard to reach for that, to find something besides the artifice of the film, because it definitely looks amazing. Yeah. And there's some editing skills in it and cinematic moments that are like, okay, this kind of makes the film on its own, but there's got to be something in there that's accessible to make me recommend it, to make me say, oh, you got to see that in the theater.
Yeah, it's so frustrating, but the thing is, I admire it while I'm frustrated with it. You mentioned that heroin scene. It's so frustrating to watch because the character is drifting in and out, but it looks gorgeous, and that's how you should feel, because there's a character trying to talk to this high character who himself is getting frustrated, but the audience itself is having to experience that with him, and it's one of those reasons why we're going to talk later about CinemaScore and how this film bombed so terribly at that, I think, because it rings you through these motions that we're not used to in the cinema. But going back to the heavy-handedness, it's so intentional, though, that it's obviously a creative choice to have it happen so much, and there are so many choices in that in this film that I kind of want to revisit it to see, like, that devil thing, that Nine Circles of Hell thing you mentioned. I didn't get any of that, but now if I kind of want to rewatch it to look for that, but then I know the film has its frustrating spots, so it's one of those that's weird in the middle where you can admire it, but also no, I didn't have a good time for chunks of this movie.
It was hard to say that I wasn't having a good time, because I could enjoy like just the smarminess with which Brad Pitt's character carries himself, and is just completely marauding, and for good reason. He could be in some serious trouble, and he doesn't care. He's just the coolest, calmest cucumber in the bunch. But there were definitely things that you could latch onto and say, wow, this performance is amazing. Everyone's saying that, James Gandolfini, I mean, in this movie, he's basically playing just a completely over-the-edge drunk Tony Soprano. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Everybody in it was pretty good. It's just the storyline. And I generally, when I'm thinking about how I want to approach this topic or these movies and review it on our podcast, I don't want to read someone else's review, and I don't want to see what a director's up to. But I kind of broke down when I saw pop up in my Google Reader today an interview with Andrew Dominic. And he was talking. Have you read this interview? Have you read any interviews about this movie?
Mm-mm. I have not.
Okay, well, in this interview, he's talking about right after he made Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. He was in love with the film. He thought it was perfect. There was nothing he would change about it. And he was ready to go make another movie, but no one wanted to give him any money because it was considered a box office bomb, which I never thought that movie was going to be anything other than an art independent film. Did you see that as like a crowd pleaser?
I know it didn't make any money, but I can also see where it was probably really expensive, and the financiers were probably worried about it a little bit. I can see that. Well,
it was interesting because he said that people were trying to get him to make certain gangster movies, and he didn't want to make their films. So the one that he was told to make, Coogan's Trade, he took it, adapted it, and this is it. And he was talking about people getting upset with what they call ham-fisted nature of the film. But he seems to be upset with people who feel that way. And maybe he made it with such a way just to kind of say, F you guys, this is what I want to make.
Oh, but at the end, I don't know how he can not realize how ham-fisted it is when it ends. This doesn't spoil too much, but a character, a very famous actor who is famously a Democrat, actually, gives this Randian speech, and it was so disingenuous to me. I mean, you try to separate the art from the politics, but when it's someone really iconic, how can he not notice how ham-fisted it is when you have a monologue about America?
Well, he was basically saying that it's like we're not a community, we're not people who are lifting the boat out of the water together. We're people, everyone's out for themselves, kind of thing.
So I'm getting a really mixed message from the film. The only thing that undercuts that is how despicable the character is who says that line or that gives that speech.
Well, I think maybe the one thing you can take from that is, obviously there's complete correlations between, organized crime, people who worked in the baking industry in 2008 and politics. But maybe he's just supposed to embody that, just nail the hammer home that these people don't care anything about you. If it's the political system, if it's, Goldman Sachs or whoever you want to point the finger at, Lehman Brothers, it's just that this is it. This is what these people think about you. And he might just be an assassin or a hitman or, a mafia heavy, but it is completely over the top. But at the same time, I think you could see something there that is beyond the message that's put in front of your face.
Yeah, I assume there was. It's just me continuing to struggle with it and knowing that I'll need to revisit it in order to get that. But I didn't mean to. I think earlier I came down and said the film wasn't entertaining. I did not mean that. I think it does have a lot of style, a lot of swagger. It just has very little story to it. It feels like a short that got fattened up to 90 minutes a little bit. When you said Coen Brothers, that hits it right on the head. That it might be a film that takes a couple re-watches to get on its wavelength.
Well, the thing that people always, not always, but generally say about their films is there's nobody you can identify with in their movies or feel is the person that should be victorious. And if there was anyone in this movie that you feel should be victorious, I don't know if we should generally hang out.
Yeah, I don't think I can come up with one. I wanted to touch on one thing that you said earlier, and that's how good looking this film is. I know I've been talking a lot about aesthetics on this podcast, but there's some really cool setups in this film. There's one where the camera's affixed to the car door such so when someone slams it open, the camera goes with it and slams it shut. It goes into the car. And there was a tracking shot, a back of the head shot that was callback to Goodfellas, and not only because it also followed Ray Liotta, who we should mention is in this movie as well.
There was also another shot that might have been a Goodfellas shot where Brad Pitt gets out of the car and it starts at his feet and goes all the way up to his head.
I missed that on the first watch, and some high speed stuff that didn't really feel in place, but was cool to look at regardless.
It makes me wonder if he saw the Hurt Locker and said, "Ooh, I've got to get that 900,000 or whatever speed camera it was. Just put it in my movie somehow."
You mentioned Andrew Dominik directed
The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
Yes, and that's a film I remember loving right out of the gate, but I think that was filled with a certain amount of subtext. I could tell that it was about American mythology, and I think this only has characters saying things that make sure we pick up on it, and I do think there are dual meanings to what's being said, but this is a little too on the nose for me to recommend.
Yeah, it's kind of hard when someone's screaming in your face to hear beyond their words. I'd say maybe down the line. I can't say go see it right now.
Killing Them Softly is rated R for violence, sexual references, pervasive language, and some drug use. When we come back, we'll talk about what's new on DVD and talk about CinemaScore and how, or maybe why, Killing Them Softly got an F. New on DVD this week, this actually came out last Friday, November 30th, Men in Black 3, which I did see in the theater, but I had forgotten that this film existed. Pat, are you a big Men in Black fan?
I like the first one quite a bit, but the second one, forgettable, and I had no drive to see the third one. I'm kind of off the Will Smith bandwagon hard.
That was me being Big Willie. This is actually, I would say this is closer to the first one than the second one. Josh Brolin's really good in it.
Well, wasn't the whole story that they were writing it while filming it? Does it look like that?
Well, I don't know. There's a time travel plot, and the logic used in the time travel doesn't make any sense. It definitely is like the Looper at least had a logic to it, like even though it made my head hurt a little bit, that their logic didn't quite make sense. This logic absolutely makes no sense.
Oh, all right.
But so if you're a stickler for time travel rules, avoid Men in Black 3.
Maybe just list off the next few, and we'll just pick them real quick.
Okay, December 4th, Ai Weiwei, Never Sorry, only included it because I like saying Ai Weiwei. Beasts of the Southern Wild, which we talked about earlier. Butter, The Dark Knight Rises, Hope Springs, The Odd Life of Timothy Green, and VHS. The big one on that list, obviously, Butter.
Hugh Jackman, hooray.
The Dark Knight Rises, obviously, is the big film. I am anxious to look at the special features on that.
I'm anxious to give it a second watch and not have, well, actually my blood might boil while watching it again.
Oh, try to enjoy life, Pat. Just try to enjoy it. It's just a movie about a man
it's
who
hard
dresses
when
like
when
a
you
bat.
have a negative opinion about a film and then somebody puts a list out there with 100 things that are wrong with the movie and you agree with every one of them. So I don't know. I'll give it a second view and maybe our listeners will be upset that I keep bringing it up.
I saw someone on Facebook. I hate to get onto a tangent here, but he was like, "Yay, Batman comes out," and then someone posted, "Christopher Nolan is dead to me." I was like, "Come on."
Whatever.
Really?
I do have to say that one major blog that I read put a list of his best to worst films, and The Prestige was second to last, below Dark Knight Rises. It's like, does this person watch it for anything other than Batman?
Was Insomnia last?
No, The Following.
Oh, okay. Well, that's like his first film.
Well, best to worst doesn't necessarily mean it's terrible. It's just
not
the best
okay.
of his movies.
That's probably fair to say. Also new to Blue, a film I meant include just because I know it's one of your favorite.
Yep.
Brazil, Criterion Collection, new to Blu-ray, and Finding Nemo.
Brazil, depending on which way the wind is blowing, my favorite film.
Pat, did you watch Brazil this week?
No, this weekend. Actually, last week I kind of kept going with my whole films I haven't seen in the 70s. And I watched Last Embrace with Roy Scheider. And have you seen this film?
I've never heard of it.
Oh, well, it is possibly the single worst spy movie ever made. It has some of the worst storytelling and logic and action sequences I have ever seen. There are jumps in it that make no sense, that make Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon look like, the most easy to follow plot in the world. So I don't know. Don't see that film unless you want to be keep going, what just happened? And also we watched the 5-Year Engagement, which was okay.
That film is so long.
Yeah, they could have cut out so much.
It's way too long. Funny stuff, but spread out over like 2.5 hours.
All right, and for those people who have seen it and just want to be in the what the hell area with me, what in the world was with him and his stupid mutton chop beard and eating all that deer? That was just way over the top.
I thought you were going to go with Alison Brie and her English accent.
Oh, yeah, that too. Or him plotting naked through the woods. Oh, man. There's some funny stuff, and there's some heartfelt stuff, but on the whole, I don't know about that movie.
A lesser effort than Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I will agree with that.
Well, I see here you have something about internet videos. What does that mean?
Oh, darn it. I changed it. That's when I thought I wasn't going to be able to see any movies this week.
Well, then that surprises. What did you see?
I mentioned last week that I did manage to do some Black Friday shopping, and I did a lot for other people, I swear. But one of the things I picked up for myself was a triple feature of The Goonies and the 2 Gremlins films. The Goonies is a film that my wife hadn't seen, and I actually have not seen it in a long time. And it actually doesn't hold that much nostalgic power for me.
Me
because
either. I'm actually not a major fan of it.
But my wife and I, we went to Astoria for our honeymoon. It was part of our honeymoon, and Goonies is set largely, and it's set entirely in Astoria.
Yeah, did you run into the Kindergarten Cop while you were there?
We visited locations for Kindergarten Cop, and we went to the Goonies house, even though she hadn't seen it. So we watched it, and I was afraid it really wouldn't hold up, and it doesn't really hold up that much. It was still fun to watch, especially like if we watch Raising Hope, and Martha Plimpton is a little kid in that, and Josh Brolin, who was in Men in Black 3, is in it. But that film has some crazy narrative logic. They find a map, and there's bank robber, and then the bank robbers are like sometimes really scary, like they're gonna stick Chunk's hand in a blender, but then they like sing opera songs, and then there's a hunchback. It's just a really strange movie. And it got me kind of in an 80s kick. So then Ashley and I watched Back to the Future, which the only thing that's not perfect to this day about Back to the Future is how the old age makeup doesn't hold up in HD. Especially the necks, they all look extra wrinkly.
Well,
but
that's too bad. Now I'm never going to watch it again.
You have an expression about every film is going to be remade or sequelized or whatever. And I've come to terms with that will probably happen with Back to the Future.
Yes, there was some movie that came out in the last 2 years, and it was a tag team duo of directors. Oh, I'm not going to remember it, but they said the only reason they got signed is because they were promised they could remake Back to the Future. Oh, man. I'm sorry to put that out there without having the names at the tip of my tongue. That's a tragedy. That's one of those movies that just can't be redone. It's like The Wizard of Oz or Gone with the Wind.
I was thinking about this while watching it, and I'm like, if they're going to do it, they should do it in a couple years when it's 2015, exactly 30 years after 1985. What they should do is not make it a remake, but they should kind of make it a quasi-sequel where someone discovers the videotape that Marty McFly is filming Doc Brown's experiment, because you see the flux capacitor.
Oh, yes.
Some kooky scientist sees that, builds their own flux capacitor, takes them 30 years or whatever, and then some punk kid has to go back to 1985 before cell phones and the internet.
Dude, how could you just say that and put that out there? You have to write this film now before somebody makes that movie without giving you any credit.
No! Okay.
Well, if they do make it, I think they should wait until hoverboards come out. That needs to happen first before the movie's made.
Exactly. Well, we're going to transition into our quote-unquote special segment every week. And this week we wanted to talk about something called the CinemaScore. Pat, can you explain to me what the CinemaScore is?
Okay, so basically when they do test screenings to see how a movie is going to react to audiences and that kind of, if they like it, will they tell their friends and what they thought worked and didn't. They do it all based on age. They do CinemaScores, and they have these CinemaScore cards where they rate the film A through F. And there's a picture of the Cinema Scorecard online. Give me 1 second here. And it says, would you buy this movie on VHS or DVD? Would you rent this movie on VHS or DVD? Reasons for attending the film. And then, basic, demographic information. And what I found, there was a big to-do because this movie, Killing Them Softly, got an F. And it joins a very small group of films that all have Fs. And I've only seen one of them, which I think I left off. But this list includes Bug, Wolf Creek, Darkness, The Box. Oh, I've seen The Box as well. The Devil Inside, Silent House, and I believe Solaris was on there, but I somehow left it off. The remake, the Steven Soderbergh remake. But do you believe that this movie, Jacob, deserves an F?
Here's the problem with this. I think it literally gauges crowd pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
If that's
absolutely, that's 100%.
That's exactly what the metric is. And I don't think it's a metric for quality, because America has low standards from what I could tell, as we'll get into from what other things are graded. But what the thread I came up with looking at the 8 films that have got an F, and that also includes The American, which got an F among females only. It got a D- with audiences, but an F with females, is that they're genre films, I think, or films that I think it falls onto the marketing department's fault, because they sell a certain film and audiences go expecting a cool sci-fi film in the terms of Solaris, or The Box has this really neat concept. If you push the button, someone's going to die, but you're going to become rich. But the film itself, is the director is actually trying to do something different with genre, or is just being weird or not playing into conventions, especially I'm thinking about The Box, and that alienates audiences.
Absolutely. And if you look at Killing Them Softly or The American, like you said, there is some downright slow scenes in there and things that are shot at weird angles and like put just to make your eye have to work for the movie. That there is not a flashy action sequence in this movie unless you consider the slow bullet shot, the super slow-mo. So an F is hard to say. If I were going to say, is this a family pleaser, it's a definite F. Is it a good Saturday night and I want to see something cool? It's most likely an F.
The way they're selling it, it's Brad Pitt on the poster with a shotgun. If you go expecting that, you're going to find about 30 seconds worth of pleasure in the film.
Can we talk about the A+ list, which is just as long? You've got a chance to look at this as well. Now, I'll read it, and then you tell me if these belong truly on your A+ list. I mean, this is obviously very quick, and we're not going to make a list of movies that should be there, but just these 8. Titanic, Argo, Tangled, The King's Speech, The Avengers, Courageous, and Toy Story 2.
Maybe Toy Story 2 would be of those films. If I'm giving I would never give A+ as a grade in general. A is the topper, but that's the only one I would give 5 stars.
Out of this list, I think the only one that I would say like the entire movie, I was like, oh, this is it's got its good low moments, it's got its good high moments, it's tense. It's this year's Argo. I'm very much in line with you that an A+ is ridiculous. But just the ability to keep somebody engaged through something and even know how it's going to go is Argo for me.
Argo's a really good film, and The Avengers is very entertaining. By the time you walk out of that theater, you are on a movie high. I remember how excited I was after leaving the movie. I thought this was going to be the best summer of films ever. I couldn't wait to go to the next movie I could possibly go to, so I went to Dark Shadows, the next week, and then I was brought back down to earth. But I can see how these films get A+ because they're very much crowd pleasers. They all have happy endings.
Well,
you feel good afterwards. Well, not Titanic. Yeah, you're
people just really must love young lovers that freeze to death in the ocean.
I have not seen Courageous either. That's like a Christian firefighter movie or something.
This list is interesting. Like, there's just movies where I'm thinking about crowd pleasers in the vein of Argo, and I mentioned this to a couple people. I don't know if I said it in the podcast, but thinking about like Argo and that getting an A+, it very much to me felt like Miracle, the hockey movie about the 1980s hockey team that won the gold unexpectedly. Doesn't that seem very much in the same line of like you come out of the theater and you're just on like this mega high? There's so many films that are like that I might put in there, especially above Tangled. That's a very weird A+.
It's a crowd pleaser. I liked Tangled quite a bit, but yeah.
Maybe we should move on to the interesting grades. Now, they just started making these public on their own website, but there's not a historical backlog that I could find. Maybe I'm wrong if someone wants to leave a comment with a link to that. But I picked out over the last couple of years from this one blog post just a few interesting high grades and low grades. Should I just run these down, or should we just pick a few?
Yeah, let's just pick a few. I actually had noted Green Lantern getting a B, a film I didn't hate nearly as much as a lot of other people. But when you see how highly that ranks, I mean, the other films that get below a B or get around a B, that's pretty generous for a film that seems to be universally derived.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's maybe the most interesting on here for me of the high grades. And this isn't even all that high, but Due Date is a B-. And I shut that movie off. It was personally unwatchable, just the way that they cast Robert Downey Jr. and Zach Galifianakis. They were too much oil and water in that movie to be enjoyable, and for that not to be a C- or a D just shows me that the same people who voted for that for a B- gave Just Go With It, the Adam Sandler Jennifer Aniston film from last February, an A-. A-.
These are people, I mean, they are getting to see a movie for free, I'm imagining, that they bring in to fill out these cards. So maybe they'll just take whatever they can get.
Yeah. Well, then there's the low grades, and these are much shorter, but Hannah, Joe Wright film, with got a C+. Rango, C+. Let Me In, C+. D- for The American, as we just mentioned. But those are a little more, you got to chew on it type film. Even Rango, you kind of got to chew on it. And then, didn't it win the Oscar?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Academy Award-winning Rango, and also a big box office hit. So maybe these aren't always on the money, but I don't know.
That was the kind of thing I was thinking. If we were looking at this, that these would sprout up. If you get a high grade, you got a bigger chance of making a franchise out of these films. And obviously, we have Transformers here, Dark of the Moon with an A, and I think that got just completely laid to waste from everybody. Even Armand White, who said that Transformers 2 was brilliant, he said it was tragically bad. I don't know. As if this is meant to say, oh, can we go ahead and greenlight the second movie? Maybe that's how Green Lantern got a sequel greenlit before it became just the biggest tank of last summer.
A very interesting theory. The one piece of evidence I have that maybe their scoring works is going back to Killing Them Softly and its F rating. I had 2 pairs of walkouts during my afternoon showing of Killing Them Softly. So people obviously weren't liking it. They were walking out. I can imagine that is an automatic F.
Yeah, there are films where I've considered walking out that I'd like to see their score, like Oliver Stone's U-Turn. Oh, man, one of the worst movies I've ever seen in the theater, but alas, there's not a historical reference list. Maybe one day there will be, and we can have a different discussion about our laugher rating.
I've learned actually quite a bit about the CinemaScore, and it actually has made me very sad. So I think with that, we should end it. And when we come back, we're going to wrap up the show and talk about what we're going to review next week. Feedback, Pat, you're going to tell us how people can get in touch with us here at Filmcast Without a Cause. We've kind of had some informal feedback. Jonathan G., big fan, or old friend of ours, Jonathan Gregg, sent us a rather cool photo of a Reebok ad that had Sigourney Weaver and aliens, and I'm going to pull it up. We're going to put it on the website, or at least I'm giving you more work, Pat. Sorry about that.
No, that's perfectly fine. It seems like a brilliant move, and I'm surprised they don't do that still. Like Goon, a crazy hockey comedy that came out earlier this year. They sell all their hockey gear from that movie. You can buy hockey jerseys for that team and say Goon hats. It makes sense, you know? But I guess that's product placement of a different kind.
Yeah, it says, on July 18th, Reebok will preview a shoe that you won't see for 150 years. And it shows Ripley wearing her big high-top Reeboks. It's pretty great. My brother, Andrew Rosdale, made some comments on Facebook recently about some films that we had reviewed on the show, so I wanted to share those here. Quote, this is Andrew in quotes from Facebook, was thinking this during the first 15 minutes or so of Life of Pi. Yeah, your following of multiple religions is very interesting. Now get to the effing tiger! Exclamation point. And we actually consulted Andrew when Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter came out to give us some Lincoln facts, and so I'm glad he went on Facebook to provide some Lincoln facts about Lincoln. He says, despite what happened in the film, Abraham Lincoln never made another speech after getting shot and killed. Looks like Spielberg made a mistake. Minor spoiler for Lincoln there, that Lincoln is killed. Pat, how can people get a hold of us for real?
Okay, they're just you can contact us in a couple ways, of course. There's Twitter, FilmcastWOAC. There's our email, filmcastwoac@gmail.com. You can hit us on the FWOC phone, 515-412-0737. Leave us a PG-rated message, and you're sure to get on the air. And you can leave us anything you want as feedback on our website, filmcastwithoutacause.com.
Coming up in theaters this week, December 7th, Deadfall, which is an Eric Bana thriller that I only included on this list because I was thinking the other day, whatever happened to Eric Bana? Hitchcock, Hyde Park on Hudson, Lay the Favorite, which is a gambling comedy starring Rebecca Hall and Bruce Willis, and Playing for Keeps, which is another awful-looking Gerard Butler romantic comedy. And we're not quite sure what we're going to be reviewing next week on the show. Once again, that's the tricky part with this time of the year. Things have different rollouts, so it takes a while for them to get to certain cities.
But if anyone wants a little bead on where we're thinking, we're leaning Russian, if that's a little help.
Yeah, Russian, or maybe we're going to have to go back to...
We're going to have a mental break.
We're going to have a mental break. That's good. Anyway, thanks again for listening to Filmcast Without a Cause. I'm Jacob Rosdale.
I'm Patrick Boberg. That's a wrap.
I'm finished.